unfortunately, we've kind of gotten to the median American doesn't matter. In the broad economic sense, in the world that I watch GDP and payrolls and all this kind of stuff, the median American hasn't mattered for years. The only thing that really matters is the top 10, 20%. And that's not to say that they don't matter as a person or that their economic pain doesn't matter, because my whole that's kind of my whole thing with the silent depression. So yeah, but from a broad economic sense, they don't matter. So the only thing that matters to the bubble popping is that upper leg of the K. If they're buoyed by asset price returns and wealth effect, then they'll continue to spend, and kind of the show goes on. We see from Trump that, like, if you felt like the bubble was starting to kind of wobble, and starting to kind of slow down and curl over, Trump is coming out and going, and that's how I think the Trump admin is interpreting the election result in New York. I think they're interpreting that as like, oh boy, they're starting, like, the people are pissed. They're starting to, like, go the other way. And so, like, next thing you know, within 7 days, there's stimmy checks, there's, all this stuff. So, yeah, I think that, like, they will do everything they can to kind of reheat the economy if they feel like it's starting to cool off. I think that, it's probably starting to cool off a bit. The government shutdown didn't help. That was sapping about 18 billion per week in GDP. So that wasn't helping. We had layoffs associated with the shutdown. That wasn't helping. Liquidity was pretty poor. So that would have eventually trickled into the asset side with probably the stock market, some sort of sharp VAR shock in the stock market, which could have caused the wealth of it, right? So you start kind of thinking second, third order effects. And it was time to end the shutdown because that's part of the reason the liquidity picture was so bad was TGA. So it's all interconnected. But yeah, I did kind of get a sense over the past week or two that we were starting to kind of curl over. But, right away they came in and they're not going to allow anything to happen.
Yeah. It does feel like nothing ever happens. Actually, speaking of, well, I guess that would be the opposite of this, but I've seen this from earlier, which I believe you had commented on a little bit. We just brought it up a second ago. Was on the stimulus package, $2,000 tariff dividend. Interesting stuff. You were not a big fan of this. I saw your response to this, and I see Ryan's also in the chat. He has a question here as well. What happens if Trump says we are taking tariffs to eliminate federal income tax from everyone?
So it would, yeah, that's what they promised, by the way. Howard Lutnick promised you that the tariffs would be implemented, but they would eliminate the income tax. This was what they explicitly promised the American people. So yeah, the math could work from the math that I've done. That 150K, maybe not 150K, but certainly like 100-ish, I think was the cutoff the last time I did the math. The tariff revenue is about 350 billion per year annualized out. And the bottom 70 to 80% of Americans, they could eliminate the income tax.
Wow.
With 350 billion in tariff revenue. Yeah, they could.
And you're thinking this is not going to happen, or you're thinking this is?
No, I think it sounds too good. It would be too revolutionary. It would be too fresh. It would be too nice. It would be, you know what I mean? Like, it's too good. Something that good could never happen. Like, unfortunately.
Benefits too many of the normal people, just like, honestly.
Well, the other thing too, so the math there, 350 billion collected, annualized out with the tariff revenue, $2,000, the labor force right now, he said per person, I think, to most America. Yeah. So he said maybe to every American, but if you did every person in the labor force is, number one, we're not collecting trillions of dollars. That's insane. We're collecting like 350 billion a year, which is a lot, which is enough to do some great things. Like, I don't know why he has to lie. But yeah, 170 million in the labor force. You multiply 170 million by 2000, you get about 350 billion. So if they do this and they give every person in the labor force $2,000, that would basically exhaust or deplete every single dollar of tariff revenue for an entire year. An entire year's worth of tariff revenue would be gone in an instant if they did that. They could do it. The math could work, but what you would be doing right now, that tariff revenue is helping to buffer or reduce the deficit, right?
Yeah.
The Treasury is collecting 350 billion a year. Well, so what that means is the Treasury doesn't have to issue as much debt to cover the Treasury's expenses, to cover the federal government's expenses. If all of a sudden you take that 350 billion in revenue that the Treasury is getting and you flip it around right away and give it right back to the people, well, what that means is the Treasury is going to have to, the deficit functionally increases. Technically, it doesn't, technically, it might not actually increase, but like functionally, in terms of debt issuance, they would have to go from collecting 350 billion, and that goes into the TGA that can fund their needs. It would go from that to, oh, now we have to issue 350 billion more in debt, which would probably not be good for the bond market. And it should be noted, the betting markets, last I checked, only had the probability of this at like 10%. So it's like Taco, everyone is just, he just says stuff and it's not going to happen.
We've also seen, I'd be curious, I don't know if I've gotten your, maybe we have talked about this on a space. They're all blending together now. But with all this from the average person, we've seen prediction markets just go absolutely crazy. And people putting a lot of like, I don't know what the right word is, but like they'll look at like a poly market or a call sheet or something like that. I don't know which one you think makes most sense, but like there's multiple of them out there. A call sheet's one, or call C, or call sheet.
Call sheet.
Call sheet's one. Poly market's another. What's it called? Basically, everyone's just like talking about it. It's coming up everywhere. I'm curious on your thoughts on this, like more macro. I know from a lot of the Bitcoiners are thinking this is not obviously a good habit probably to build. Maybe to the normal person, this isn't taking up that much of their mental, but maybe it is. I don't know. I mean, to me, it shows a little bit of like, this seems to be like, this is my way out. It's like, I'm going to bet on this thing in 6 years. It's going to come true or whatever.
Well, it's a direct result of the dollar and the dollar's reserve currency status. How I see the betting market stuff, Kalshi and poly market, and this is like hyper financialization of society, where everything can be bet on, everything can be gambled, everything is a market, you know, like this is some kind of like weird Ayn Rand like dystopia, you know, like everyone talks about Ayn Rand and the utopia like version of an Ayn Rand world. But like this seems like the dystopian version of an Ayn Rand world, where you have like all the bad parts of like capitalism or whatever you want to call it, right? Where it's just like everything can be bet on, everything is a market, everything is a gamble, you know, to try to make money. And yeah, like I would point out that if you total up all the lottery ticket revenue for a year, Americans gamble over $100 billion on lottery tickets every year.
Wow. Jeez.
So that's a lot of money. That's a lot of money.
It feels like what we're seeing is like a copy paste of the old world, just planted on the digital realm, which is infinite. It's quite literally infinite, you know what I mean? Like it feels like that's what it is. I remember like 3 years ago, like Gary Vee was like all over it. It's gonna like all these things. Like there's gonna be like TikTok lives where you can like vacuum, and while you're vacuuming, you're gonna earn like coins and tickets. I was like, why? Yeah. And I was just like, I mean, probably, but I was like, and then I think of movies like Blade Runner. Where like everyone's got like these bounties so they can go claim, and some of it's or the Tron, these movies that are just, you know, based in this other reality that are starting to become like, you know, it feels like years away. I mean, I'm not sure exactly with products and like how
techno dystopia.
Techno dystopia. But we've seen certain products come out where like it looks the part. Like I've seen Optimus robots doing like karate and kung fu, and I'm like,
I mean, look, it's cool. I use Kalshi and Polymarket, right? I won't be a hypocrite. I'll tell it how it is. Like the fact that you can have such a low friction way to make a market about there is wisdom in markets, right? This is
Yeah.
one thing that I've learned. This is like one core truth that I've learned is that there is wisdom in markets. Not all the time, but most of the time, collective. What is a market? What is a candlestick? It is, tens of millions, hundreds of millions of market participants, debating on price. That's all it is. And it's the consensus at that point in time, given the liquidity and right. So yeah, the fact that like Polymarket, there I can go and see what are the betting odds for Trump actually coming through with this check. That's kind of cool. And for me, it's helpful, for like what I do. But for the median American, is it good for our society that we're hyper financializing to the point that like everyone I know is trading 0-day options on Robinhood? Is that good society? Like, is that really there? Look, at least if it was stocks, you could make the argument, which some kind of very hyper libertarian people do, like hyper libertarian capitalist sort of types you like could theoretically make the argument if it was with stocks, if these young people were like, all on Robinhood and they were trading stocks, you could make the like technical argument that they're providing capital for a productive purpose. And there's like a whole spiel that they can give you about that. But like they're trading 0-day options, they're trading a derivative contract. And yeah, the market maker on the other side might hedge by buying or shorting, like, but like it's a derivative. It's not even you can't even claim, oh, they're providing capital for a productive purpose. So okay, they're buying Meta shares. Meta can then go take their capital and go invest in a productive purpose that increases productivity for 100 other people, right? And you get like there is the potential for that kind of argument to be made with a bunch of people gambling on Robinhood. The problem is they're all gambling on derivatives, which are, by definition, are kind of disconnected from, you're not buying equity. You're buying a contract with a market maker. So it's not a good direction for society. Like, back when my parents were coming of age, like the smartest people were not going to work for Wall Street to build a high frequency trading algorithm to exploit tenths of a cent. And, like, it's like, you look at our GDP and like young people are finally kind of waking up to the economic reality that like, it's all kind of fake, like it's all kind of like when you get down to it, like when it really matters, right? When the power goes out, when there's a war, can we survive as people, as humans, as animals? Can we survive? Half of our country is on some sort of medication that they need to survive, right? Can we provide them with those medications? The answer is no, we can't. Can we provide artillery shells and missiles and warheads to our Navy and to our Marine Corps? The answer is no, we can't. Like when it really comes down to what really matters, we can't make anything, and we can't. We have no capacity to do anything productive that really actually matters at the end of the day. Now, that's not to say there's not companies still based in America that can make real tangible things. There are, but like in aggregate, our economy has become this, bunch of boomers passing back and forth, a bunch of overvalued wooden boxes, a bunch of algorithmic trading firms scraping tenths of a cent off of transactions and market makers, and like a bunch of kids gambling 0-day options and meme coins. And it's like, what even, you look at the biggest companies, the Mag 7, what do they really provide? I mean, technology's cool, like Google is cool. They've provided this stream of income for me, right? That I'd never imagined, like it's not all bad. I try to never be black and white, but when you zoom out and go, on a net basis, like, is this really productive for society? Is society better off? Are we healthier? Are we happier? Are we better off financially. I mean, young people are not better off financially with all these 0-day options. And most of them lose money. 90 something percent of day traders lose money. Well, there's dozens of studies about that, right? So like, we're not financially better off. We're not mentally better off. Antidepressant prescriptions are up 13x in the past like
Good
25,
Lord.
30 years. Yeah, 13x. So we're not emotionally better off, and it's like, yeah, is it helpful for me as a guy with like a macro YouTube channel to be able to like go see, oh, there's billions of dollars being changed hands about the odds of XYZ that matters to the bond market and therefore matters to me. And, sure. But sometimes I think people need to be a little more honest with like self-interest and, like, look,